All right, Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise, glory, and honor that's due to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Rahaha Quadash, that will honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessing to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect. Shalom Barakathum. And DJ Trump and these tariffs, man. He's calling it Liberation Day. So he's making a high holy day out of taxing the hell out of the rest of the world. And this nigga is proud as hell, man. Goodness gracious. Which he's been saying he's gonna do it, but you know, the fact that he's doing that and he's spooking the markets and he really doesn't care, that shows you that this thing is about to turn up, man. Because once the money get a little funny with everybody, that adds to how would I say it? The military tensions, okay? This is gonna spill over into, you know, hot wars, okay? Economic wars are basically the same thing as a hot war. As a matter of fact, if you study like World War II history, or really most wars in general, one of the most effective strategy of winning a war, not a battle. Battles are just the physical engagement, the clashes, but the overall war, it was being able to cut off the enemy's supply chains, okay? You can stop them from restocking, stop them, cut off their access to water or a river, or you can cut them off from doing that. You can starve them out. That's one way to win a war on the long-term front. So all wars are essentially economic, okay? You know, it's gonna boil down to economics because what? Men that fight need what? They need food, they need water, you know, they need supplies. So when you start playing with people's money, it's definitely in the realm of war, okay? Even though missiles are not flying yet, that's what this is. You can't play with people's money, okay? Think about how many people America whacked that they're playing with the U.S. dollar, okay? You think these nations are just gonna sit there and let you play with their economy, okay? You're getting funny with how this debt is monetized and how the interest rates work, okay? You're messing with purchasing power and things of that nature. You know, the exchange rates across the world is crazy, man. It ain't because America has such better products. Hell, half the stuff they build here come from overseas anyway. But why is the dollar? Because America has been farming the rest of these nations, man. They've been getting over a lot, but the average American doesn't feel it because the Edomites at the top have been keeping all of that, you know? And so really it's just a bunch of old Edomites fighting against each other. And they're going to sign you people up for World War III. Believe that, okay? That's 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, okay? It speaks about there being very few men here, okay? Similar to how it was in World War II. You had a lot of women working in these factories. They was in there making bullets, all right? They were building the housing for the tank shells and all kind of things, man. All right. So this is gonna go back to that, you know, but it's not gonna go exactly the same way. Ultimately, America, because this is the judgment of the Heavenly Father, America is gonna get absolutely doo-dooed on, okay, in every way imaginable, because that's how much the Lord hates this place. And it's gonna start this year. You women about to go. A lot of you women about to go hungry, man. All right. If these tariffs hit and the markets get spooked, and all of these other landmines that are in the economy, like the real estate market that burst, the automobile industry, that's a big one right there. That's a giant bubble right there. Okay. All of these repos going up, these are landmines that can be triggered by Donald Trump making moves just like he's doing right now. All right? And when the markets get spooked, that's not good for the economy, even though the markets are not that connected with the economy. They control companies that are, you know. That's how this whole thing works. So I foresee these tariffs not working. Now Trump is claiming that this is going to be a day of wealth for America, but he ain't tell you where the money's going. Okay, He's talking about making a tariff to bring in more money to the U.S. government, not people. Okay, think about that. That money goes straight to the U.S. government. Are you going to be better off? Are eggs going to go up or go down? All right. This is what people are starting to realize now, and there's a lot of anxiety around this tariff situation. Okay, because there's a very, very real possibility that the prices go up. And the reason I say possibility, because most people are under the impression that tariffs are going to go straight up. I would say that they're most likely to go up, but there's one possibility where they won't go up, and that's if demand goes down. All right, and that's where I have a lot of doubt, because if you think about it from a supply and demand aspect, like let's say China is selling a car for $1,000. All right, Trump puts a tariff on it of 20%. Okay, now that car that used to cost $1,000 costs $1,200. You know, that's if China keeps the car the same price, because China is not going to lower the price to $800. All right, to keep it the same at $1,000. All right, they're going to pass the price on to the consumer. That's, everybody knows that. Okay, now the step after that is if the car goes up to the $1,200. All right. And because they went up to $1,200, people stop buying the car. Okay, if people see that the price is too high, they stop buying it, meaning the demand goes down. Now, if the demand goes down, that's the only thing that causes companies to drop prices. Companies never drop prices unless they're selling less units. Okay, you're not going to see them give you a discount unless they give you unless they know that they're going to sell more units. When you go to the supermarket and you see something is 30% off, they're not doing that just to give you a break. Okay, they're doing that because that 30% off might lead to another unit being sold. Okay, so even though they're selling it at a 70% clip, they're still selling 2 units instead of 1. That's how it works. Okay, so that's the only time you'll see businesses drop prices. All right, is if the demand goes down. All right. And if people still buy the same amount of cars at the $1,200 price instead of the $1,000 price, then guess what? The inflation is going to continue. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse. And eventually, the demand will cave in, but it's going to be all at once. You know, and that's never a good thing. Okay. And that's when the demand caves in all at once, then you got jobs being affected. Okay, so the companies that you work for, nobody's buying nothing now because the demand is just, nobody got it. Okay, and then a massive layoff start to happen, and then there's a vicious cycle. Okay, you know, crime starts going up, so insurance premiums raise. You know, oh, you run a liquor store? Yeah, we're gonna raise the insurance premiums because we already know people stealing. You know, and then people start to do, you know, they start to take drastic measures. You know, and the less people are working, all right, the less these companies are gonna make, and the less likely they are to hire people again. Okay, the only thing that can come out and save it, well, this is what saved it in the last go around, is that when those companies didn't have the money, all right, to hire people and to expand because nobody's spending, they just injected the money, they printed it and gave it, basically delegated it to a large set of banks. They call them primary dealers on the market, all right, and those banks, you know, divvied out the money. Okay, so those companies can start to rebuild and get back on their feet, and then eventually the economy recovered. But it really never recovered because they never got rid of that debt. That debt's still sitting there. All right. And so what you've done now is compounded and added on top of it. So now, back in 2008, where we had a housing crisis. All right. It was the great financial crisis, but the centerpiece of it was the real estate market, where it was these mortgage-backed securities, and it just undermined everything. Well, now you don't just have a real estate bubble. Now you have an everything bubble. Now the insurance. Automobiles have a bubble. Real estate has a bubble. All right. All of the major asset classes have bubbles, man. Most of these companies, if you own stocks are an asset class. Those are a bubble. And how does a company have a bubble? Because a lot of what contributes have contributed to their stock price is something called a buyback, meaning they buy back their own stock. They don't take the money and profit that they made and reinvest it and buy new equipment and make things cheaper and have new employees. No, these are a handful of executives. They buy back their own stock. That inflated the price. So they don't have any assets to buy it. So it's overinflated for no reason. When you buy back the stock, the price goes up. But it's not based on the company doing anything. It's based on them enriching themselves, basically. They took those profits and they reinvested it back to the top part of the company, not the company itself. You know, so if you own stocks, a lot of these companies that have a certain market cap, they're not worth that, because the past 10 years they've been buying back their own stock and it ain't really worth that. Okay, they don't really have it to how do you say it, to endure. Okay, a lot of these companies are strapped for cash. You know, they rely on credit. The credit markets are gonna buckle. All right, the bond market, this shit is gonna go away in its entirety, man. All right, now I don't know if this Trump thing is gonna actually do it. We'll see. You know, but it's definitely ready. Okay, it's gonna be so bad they're gonna have to get rid of the dollar, man. The dollar ain't gonna get you out of this. You can't keep printing them shits. Okay, and I don't believe the rest of the world is even gonna tolerate it. That's why BRICS was set up, because they perceive already, they see the writing on the wall that America's gonna get in another financial jam, and they're gonna have to print a bunch of US dollars, and all of those countries holding US dollars in debt are gonna be screwed. So they're already seeing this happen, and that's why they're invested into BRICS, which is gonna have currencies backed by gold. Because they're not about to tolerate America printing another $5 trillion out of nowhere, man. Come on. You know? At what point do you just know this nigga's scamming you, man? You ever had a relative that always had a business idea and he needed some money to borrow every time, you know, but the business idea never fell through? But I just need a little bit more, man. I just need a little bit more, you know? And this goes on for 5 years. At a certain point, you like, well, this nigga ain't running no business, man. He just asking for money. And that's what's happening to America. But they're not saying it out in the open, okay? Really, because they can't. Because when certain heads of state start talking, it moves markets around. All right, it affects their pockets as well. They're all in bed and intertwined with America, okay? And I believe BRICS is a means to get them out of that entanglement, you know. And ultimately, man, America's going to be left holding the bag, and that's going to be worth going to war over. All right, they're gonna want to control ports and access points, you know. And other countries are gonna look at you like, well, what is your authority to do it? Y'all are broke. Okay, you shipped all your manufacturing overseas. You know, why should we listen to you? You know, this thing is gonna build up, man. The scriptures say in James, the 5th chapter, that Salakia, I'm drawing a blank, but in James the 5th chapter, it speaks about the laborers that were kept back by fraud crieth out, okay? And it speaks about him living wanton, you know, as he's and nourished as in a day of slaughter. Like you have an animal, the day you're gonna slaughter it, you feed it a lot more, man, you know, because it's getting ready to be slaughtered. That's America, man. That's how it likened America, okay? Who laid on thick debt, all right? And you weaponize debt, man, okay? Debt is already bad enough, and you made that even more of a weapon, man, you know? So this thing is about to get really, really ugly, man. And what does that look like for the average everyday person? Good luck, man, okay? Especially you women, because y'all have no sense of financial discipline, or really just discipline in general. All right, a lot of you did OnlyFans and thought that was just gonna be up forever. Okay, now AI is here. Okay, I seen the video with AI with Donald Trump and all of the heads of state. I'm like, man, this shit is through. You OnlyFans women about to be out of there, man. You were making 20 racks a month, you know, some a lot more than that. Goodbye. All right. Watch when hyperinflation sets in. It ain't gonna matter how much you make at all anyway, man. You know, you're gonna have to be plugged into the system, and that's where the Caragba is gonna come into play. You know. So, you know, we'll see, man. You know, happy, what did he call it? Liberation Day. You know, because the Lord is about to throw this place down. So I'll end it there, man. Lord willing, this is edifying. On to the next. Shalom.